Hey, welcome to our channel. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss our latest content.
I always believed I knew my wife, not just in the way a husband knows his spouse after 7 years, her preference for coffee over tea, the specific wrinkle that appeared between her brows when she was concentrating, but in a deeper, more elemental way. I thought I knew the very architecture of her soul. Our marriage was a house we had built together, brick by sturdy brick. It was a place of comfort, of security, a fortress against the chaotic world outside. Its foundations were solid, its walls were true, and I, its proud inhabitant, felt utterly safe within them. Eleanor was the light in that house. She had a laugh that could chase shadows from the darkest corners of my mind, and a way of tilting her head when she listened that made you feel like you were the only person in the universe. Our life had settled into a comfortable rhythm, a predictable cadence of shared breakfasts, hurried goodbyes, text messages during lunch, and quiet evenings unwinding on the sofa. It was a rhythm so steady that I had perhaps begun to take its beautiful, simple music for granted. I knew things weren't as fiery as they were in the beginning, but the affection was there, a deep, warm current flowing beneath the surface of our daily obligations. We were Jonathan and Eleanor, a single, unbreakable unit. There was no room for doubt. The morning it all began was painfully ordinary. The sun cast long fingers of light across our bedroom floor. The scent of brewing coffee drifted up from the kitchen, and the muffled sounds of the city waking up provided a familiar soundtrack. I was running late, as usual, fumbling with my tie in front of the bathroom mirror. And that's when I saw it. Hanging casually from the doorknob, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, was a pair of underwear I had never seen before. It was arresting. The color was a vibrant, almost electric lime green, a stark contrast to the muted tones of our bathroom. The fabric was edged with delicate black lace, and on the hip, a tiny, metallic charm in the shape of a chili pepper caught the light with a silver glint. It was bold, playful, and utterly foreign. It was so, not Eleanor, or, at least, not the Eleanor I thought I knew. Her usual choices were practical, elegant cottons and silks in shades of cream, navy, and soft rose. This was something else entirely. The image seared itself into my mind. It hung there, a splash of neon in my monochrome morning, and I couldn't shake it. When Eleanor came into the bathroom, humming softly, a towel wrapped around her hair, I tried to sound casual. "That's new," I said, gesturing with my chin towards the doorknob. She followed my gaze and a bright, easy laugh escaped her lips. It was the laugh I loved, the one that always put me at ease. "Oh, that. Beatrice gave it to me. A silly little gift. She said every woman needs something completely frivolous in her drawer." "A chili pepper?" I asked, a smile playing on my own lips. She stepped closer, a mischievous sparkle in her eyes. "Adds a little spice, don't you think?" she said, her voice dropping to a playful whisper. "I might wear it for a special night." The way she said it sent a pleasant jolt through me. It was a hint, an invitation, a shared secret just for the two of us. The earlier feeling of strangeness evaporated, replaced by a warm, bubbling excitement. In that moment, the lime green underwear transformed. It was no longer a foreign object, but a symbol of our intimacy, a promise of a future moment of passion. "I'll look forward to it," I said, leaning in to kiss her. She tasted of mint toothpaste and the endless affection that had defined our life together. As I drove to work, the image of the chili pepper charm kept flashing in my mind, but now it made me smile. I pictured her picking it out, planning a surprise. In a long marriage, it was these little gestures that kept the spark alive, the small, deliberate efforts to enchant one another. It was a testament to our strength, a sign that we hadn't let the comfortable rhythm lull us into complacency. I felt a surge of love for her, so profound it was almost painful. My Eleanor. My solid ground. I had no idea that the ground was about to crack open beneath my feet. I had no idea that this seemingly innocent detail, this symbol of our private intimacy, would soon become the catalyst for the complete and utter destruction of my world. At that moment, it was just a playful secret, and I was a fool in a fortress, completely oblivious to the siege that was about to begin. A few days passed, and life continued its steady, unassuming march. The lime green underwear disappeared from the doorknob and, I assumed, was tucked away in Eleanor's drawer, waiting for its debut. I didn't mention it again, content to let the anticipation build. I imagined she was saving it for our anniversary, which was just a few weeks away. The thought was a pleasant background hum to my busy week. That Friday, I went to Julian's place. It was a ritual as old as our friendship, carved into the stone of our post-college lives. Football, beer, and the kind of mindless, insulting banter that only decades of brotherhood can foster. Julian was my best friend, the kind of friend who was more family. He was the best man at my wedding, the first person I called when I got my big promotion. He and Eleanor got along famously. He was a fixture at our dinner parties, a constant, reliable presence in our shared life. I arrived to the familiar, chaotic symphony of Julian's apartment. The roar of the pre-game commentary on the television, the clinking of bottles, the smell of buffalo wings and cheap beer hanging thick in the air. I settled onto the large, worn-out sectional sofa, trading insults with the guys and immediately getting lost in the game. An hour or so in, a draft from the window sent a chill down my spine. "Hey Julian, you got a blanket?" I called out over the noise. "Should be one tucked in the corner of the couch," he yelled back from the kitchen, his attention on a fresh bowl of chips. I reached into the deep crevice between the back and seat cushions, my fingers searching for the familiar fleece. Instead, they brushed against something small, soft, and silky, with a textured edge. Lace. I figured it was a stray sock or something, and instinctively, I pulled it out. The world went silent. The roar of the television, the laughter of my friends, the entire vibrant scene around me faded into a muffled, distant hum. In my hand, illuminated by the flickering light of the television, was a splash of electric lime green. My breath caught in my throat. My blood ran cold. It wasn't just similar. It wasn't a coincidence. It was identical. The same vibrant color, the same delicate black lace, and there, dangling from the side, catching the light with a sickening, metallic gleam, was the tiny silver chili pepper. Time seemed to warp and stretch. I sat there, frozen, the small piece of fabric feeling as heavy as a block of lead in my palm. My brain struggled to process the impossible reality in front of me. Eleanor's voice echoed in my head, light and carefree. "Beatrice gave it to me. I might wear it for a special night." That special night. My gaze snapped towards the kitchen. Julian was leaning against the counter, laughing at something one of the other guys had said. He was relaxed, happy, completely oblivious. My best friend. The sight of his easy smile felt like a physical blow, a painful, jarring contradiction to the monstrous suspicion that was blooming, black and poisonous, in my chest. Suddenly, a flood of memories began to rearrange themselves in my mind, the pieces clicking into a new, horrifying picture. Eleanor coming home late from her book club last week, her cheeks flushed. The way she'd quickly angled her phone away from me a few nights ago, when a text came in, her vague answers when I asked how her day was. Each memory, once innocent, was now tainted, twisted into a clue in a betrayal I never thought possible. Beatrice gave it to her. Was Beatrice even real? Or was she a convenient name, a cover for something sordid and ugly? And Julian, my best man, my brother, could he? The fabric in my hand felt like it was burning my skin. It was a key to a door I had never wanted to open, a door that led to the ruin of everything I held sacred. My marriage, my friendship, my entire life. My hand was trembling, but a cold, hard resolve settled over me. Instead of dropping it, instead of confronting anyone, I slowly, deliberately closed my fist around it. With a movement that felt both impossibly slow and urgently fast, I slipped it into the pocket of my jeans. The soft fabric was a toxic presence against my leg, a secret pulse of deceit. I tried to turn my attention back to the screen, but the players were just colorful blurs. Eleanor's laugh from that morning, her playful promise of a special night, it all sounded like a well-rehearsed lie now. Every second I spent in that room felt like an eternity, the air thick with betrayal I could almost taste. I had to get out, before my face betrayed the storm raging inside me. Taking a deep, shaky breath, I stood up. "Hey guys, I'm not feeling great," I managed to say, my voice sounding hollow and distant to my own ears. "I think I'm gonna head out." Julian, distracted by a touchdown, just waved a hand in my direction. "All right, man. Feel better." He had no idea. He had no idea he had just wished me well while I was carrying the wreckage of our lives in my pocket. As I walked to the door, past the smiling faces of my friends, I felt like a ghost, an observer to a life that was no longer mine. The cold night air hit me as I stepped outside, but it did nothing to cool the fire in my gut. I had to get home. I had to find out the truth. The drive home was an exercise in controlled chaos. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles were white, a stark contrast to the red haze of fury that clouded my vision. Each red light was a personal torment, each stop sign an unbearable pause in my frantic race towards a truth I wasn't sure I wanted to find. The small, damning piece of fabric in my pocket was a constant, burning reminder. It felt like a living thing, pulsing with the heat of my wife's betrayal and my best friend's treachery. My mind was a prosecutor's office, replaying every recent interaction, every conversation, twisting them into evidence for the prosecution. Eleanor's late night at the office 2 weeks ago. Julian's offhand comment about needing help picking out a gift for a friend. It all clicked together with the sickening certainty of a puzzle I had been too blind to see. As I turned onto our quiet, tree-lined street, a thought struck me with the force of a physical blow. Whenever I went to Julian's for game night, Eleanor usually went to her friend Beatrice's house. They would order takeout and binge-watch shows. She wouldn't be home. A wave of relief, quickly followed by dread, washed over me. I wouldn't have to face her. Not yet. I wouldn't have to look into the eyes I loved and see a liar, but it also meant I would be alone with my spiraling thoughts, alone in the house we built together, which now felt less like a fortress and more like a crime scene. I entered the house quietly, the familiar click of the lock sounding unnaturally loud in the silence. The air was still, carrying the faint, lingering scent of Eleanor's perfume. It was a scent that used to mean comfort, home. Now it smelled like deceit. I went straight upstairs to our bedroom. I stood for a moment, staring at the closed closet doors. The memory of the original lime green underwear hanging on the bathroom doorknob felt so vivid I could almost see it there, a ghostly taunt. I needed to know. I needed concrete proof, one final piece of evidence to confirm the verdict my heart had already delivered. With a surge of adrenaline, I yanked the closet door open. What followed was a frenzy. I wasn't searching, I was tearing things apart. I pulled out drawers, the neat stacks of sweaters and shirts toppling over. I pushed hangers across the rod with a harsh, screeching sound, her dresses and blouses swaying like ghosts in the dim light. The careful order Eleanor always maintained, a reflection of her calm and collected nature, was being systematically destroyed by my frantic hand. T-shirts, dresses, scarves, jeans, a mountain of fabric grew on our bed and spilled onto the floor. Each empty space in a drawer, each section of the closet I cleared, tightened the knot of dread in my chest. I was a man possessed, driven by a desperate need to find the one thing I was terrified of not finding, and then, there was nothing left to search. I had been through every drawer, every shelf, every corner. I stopped, my breath coming in ragged gasps, my hands braced against the closet frame. The pile of her clothes surrounded me, their familiar scent now suffocating. There was no sign of the lime green underwear with the chili pepper charm. Its absence was louder than any confession. It was the final, irrefutable proof. The one she'd shown me was gone. The one I'd found was at Julian's. The math was simple, brutal, and absolute. 1 + 1 = the end of my world. Surrounded by the chaos I had created, a profound sense of loss washed over me, so immense it brought me to my knees. I sank to the floor amidst the scattered remnants of our life together. I thought of our first date, of our wedding day, of the quiet, beautiful promises we had whispered to each other in the dark. Every good memory was now poisoned, a beautiful photograph set on fire at the edges. When had it happened? When had our marriage, my solid fortress, veered off course into this dark, unknown territory? Had I been a fool all along, living in a carefully constructed illusion while she lived a secret life? The image of Julian's laughing face returned, and a fresh wave of rage, cold and sharp, cut through the grief. My best friend, my wife, together, the two people I trusted most in the world. I stayed there for a long time, kneeling on the floor, looking at the mess I'd made. It was a perfect reflection of the real chaos, the one that was tearing me apart from the inside. And for the first time in my life, I was truly, utterly afraid of the answers I was about to demand. The quiet life of Jonathan was over. The man who was about to stand up from this floor was someone else entirely, someone harder, colder, and irrevocably broken. With the wreckage of Eleanor's closet around me and my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird, I pulled my phone from my pocket. My thumb hovered over her name, the familiar picture of her smiling on a beach trip seeming to mock me from a different lifetime. I pressed call. The dial tone echoed in the silent room, each ring stretching into an eternity. It felt like a countdown, marking the final seconds of the life we once had. Hello? Her voice came through, light and cheerful. In the background, I could hear the faint sound of a television. She was at Beatrice's, just as she'd said. The thought that even her alibi was part of the intricate lie sent a fresh wave of ice through my veins. Are you going to be out late? I asked. I tried to keep my voice steady, to sand down the raw edges of rage and pain, but I could hear the strain in it, a low, dangerous tremor. I knew she would hear it too. There was a brief pause. The background noise seemed to dip, as if she'd moved to a quieter spot. We're in the middle of a movie, probably a while longer. Why? Can't it wait? No, I said, the single word sharp and heavy. I closed my eyes, picturing her face, trying to find the woman I married inside the stranger I was now convinced she was. I need you to come home. We need to talk. The silence on the other end of the line was different this time. It wasn't a pause. It was a void, filled with a sudden, palpable tension. Jonathan? Did something happen? Her voice was lower now, laced with concern. I could almost hear her mind racing, trying to decipher my tone. A bitter, humorless laugh almost escaped me. Did something happen? I don't know yet, I said, the words dripping with a coldness that felt foreign even to me. I don't know if something's happened or not, but I'm going to find out. I need you to come home. Now. This time, the silence was longer, heavier. I heard her take a shaky breath. Okay, she said, her voice small, stripped of its earlier lightness. I'm coming home. I ended the call without another word. No goodbye. No I love you. Those words felt like ash in my mouth. I remained in the bedroom, a king surveying his ruined kingdom. The scattered clothes, the empty drawers, it all felt like a stage being set for the final, tragic act of our marriage. Every minute that ticked by until she arrived was a fresh torment. I paced the room, the piece of underwear in my pocket a constant, hateful pressure against my leg. I imagined the conversation, the confrontation. I pictured her lies, her denials, and the moment I would produce the evidence that would shatter them all. My phone vibrated in my hand just a few minutes later. It was her again. I let it ring twice before answering, a petty assertion of the control I now felt. I'm in the car, she said, her voice fast and frantic, the sound of the engine humming in the background. Jonathan, what is going on? You know how I get. Is it my mom? Is my dad okay? Please, for God's sake, just tell me, did someone die? The raw panic in her voice should have moved me. A part of the old Jonathan, the husband who loved and protected her, felt a pang of guilt. But that part was buried under layers of fresh, raw betrayal. I let her hang in that fear. It felt like a small, cruel justice. I'd rather talk in person, I said, my voice flat and devoid of emotion. Jonathan, her voice cracked, trembling on the edge of a sob. Please, what happened? You're scaring me. I heard a muffled sound, the sound of someone trying desperately to hold back tears while driving. It was a sound of pure terror. A cold, hard part of me relished it. Let her be scared. Let her feel even a fraction of the agony I was feeling. Before she could beg again, I pressed the end call button. The silence that followed was absolute. It was heavier than any words, more damning than any accusation. I had turned our home into a courtroom, and I, the heartbroken victim, was now the judge, the jury, and the executioner. And I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that when she walked through that door, nothing would ever be the same again. The trial of Eleanor was about to begin. The sound of her car screeching to a halt in the driveway was followed moments later by the front door slamming open with such force that it rattled the pictures on the wall. Eleanor rushed in, a hurricane of panic and fear. Her eyes were red and wild, tear tracks glistening on her pale cheeks. She was breathing in short, sharp gasps, her purse clutched in a white-knuckled grip. Her terrified gaze swept the living room and found me. I was sitting on the couch, leaning forward with my elbows on my knees, a posture of grim waiting. I hadn't moved since ending the call. I just watched her, my expression a mask of cold, unreadable calm. Jonathan, tell me what happened, she pleaded, her voice breaking. Please, is it my mom? My dad? Is Beatrice okay? Just tell me someone didn't die. I let the silence hang in the air for a few heartbeats, making her wait, making her feel the crushing weight of the moment. My eyes never left her face, analyzing every tremor of her lip, every flicker of fear in her eyes. I was looking for a sign of guilt, a crack in her performance. No, I said finally, my voice low and deliberate. No one died. A choked sob of relief escaped her, and she brought her hands to her face, her shoulders slumping. The relief was immediately replaced by a profound confusion. Then what? For God's sake, why would you do this? Why would you act like this? I was terrified. I spent the entire drive here imagining 1,000 horrible things. I said nothing. I just leaned back against the couch, the movement slow and measured. The tension in the room was a physical entity, an invisible weight pressing down on us both. Her face, still wet with tears, was a canvas of genuine fear, but now it was a different kind of fear. It wasn't the fear of an external tragedy, but the fear of something coming from within the walls of our own home, from me. She knew me well enough to know that this cold, quiet fury was reserved for something monumental. Finally, I took a deep breath, running a hand over my face as if to wipe away the man I used to be. When I spoke, my tone was controlled, but it carried an edge of pure, glacial indignation that I had never used with her before. I went to Julian's place today, I began, my gaze locking onto hers, pinning her in place. The living room was full. Everyone was laughing, watching the game. I painted the scene for her, letting each detail land like a carefully placed stone. I sat on the couch. I got cold, so I reached for a blanket wedged in the cushion, but my fingers found something else. I thought it was a sock, some random thing someone left behind. I paused, leaning forward again, narrowing the distance between us. But when I pulled it out, Eleanor, in my hand was a pair of lime green underwear, with black lace, and a little silver charm shaped like a chili pepper. The color drained from her face. She went utterly, deathly pale. She looked like I had struck her. I didn't give her a chance to speak. I pressed on, my voice a relentless, low hammer. It was the exact same one, I continued, the one I saw a few days ago, hanging on our bathroom doorknob, the one you said Beatrice gave you. Remember? You said you'd wear it for a special night. Well, it seems that special night was hiding in my best friend's couch cushions. My hands rested on my knees, my body coiled like a snake ready to strike. I kept it. I put it in my pocket and I left before the game was even over. I came straight here, to our room. I opened your closet and I took everything out. T-shirts, dresses, skirts, underwear. I threw it all on the bed. I checked every drawer, every corner. I let the silence stretch for a beat before delivering the final blow. My voice dropped, heavy with a final, devastating finality. And you know what, Eleanor? I didn't find it. The brand new, lime green underwear with the chili pepper charm was gone. I stood up, pulling the identical piece of fabric from my pocket and letting it dangle from my fingers, a vibrant green flag of her supposed surrender. This isn't something you just pick up anywhere. It's unique. So you tell me, Eleanor, I asked, my voice dangerously soft. Why isn't yours here at home? And why was it on my best friend's couch? The room fell into a dead, suffocating silence. She stood there, breathless, her eyes wide with a horror that I mistook for guilt, her face a mess of tears and shock. I stood before her, the judge and accuser, holding the evidence of her betrayal, waiting for the confession that I was sure would destroy us both. For a long moment, Eleanor just stared, her mouth slightly agape, as if the words I had spoken were in a language she couldn't comprehend. The tears on her face seemed to freeze. Then, something shifted in her expression. The look of terrified confusion was slowly, chillingly replaced by a blaze of incandescent fury. She wiped her tears away with the back of her hand, not with sadness, but with a sharp, angry gesture. Her gaze, which had been wide and pleading, narrowed into something sharp and cutting. When she finally spoke, her voice was tight, vibrating with a rage that matched my own. So that's it, she said, her voice low and incredulous. That's what this is. You think I slept with your best friend? On his couch? And I was careless enough to leave my underwear there? Is that really what you think of me, Jonathan? She took a step forward, her whole body trembling with indignation. After 7 years, after everything we've built, this is the conclusion you jumped to? Did you even bother to ask him? Did you ask Julian whose underwear it was before you ran home to play detective and tear our bedroom apart? No, I didn't ask. I shot back, my own voice low and direct. I took it, and I left. Because I wanted to hear the lie from you first. The lie? She threw her arms out, a gesture of complete, stunned disbelief. You haven't even considered that you might be wrong. You're so convinced of my guilt. If that underwear you found isn't mine, then why are you accusing me? I leaned forward slightly, closing the space between us until I could see the furious sparks in her eyes. Because if that one isn't yours, Eleanor, I said, my voice heavy with accusation, then where is yours? Where is your lime green underwear with the chili pepper charm? The question hung in the air between us, the final, unanswerable proof of my case. I expected her to crumble, to finally break down and confess. Instead, the silence that followed was thick and electric. She held my gaze, her breathing fast and shallow. And then, the most unexpected thing happened. A sarcastic, almost bitter smile touched the corner of her mouth. Her breathing steadied, and a look of defiant resolve settled over her features. You want to know why you didn't find the lime green underwear with the chili pepper charm in the closet, Jonathan? She asked, her eyebrows raised in a mocking challenge. She didn't wait for my answer. It's because I'm wearing it right now. My brain failed to process the words. It was like she had spoken in a foreign tongue. Without breaking eye contact, her movements slow and deliberate, she reached down to the waistband of her jeans. She unbuttoned them, pulled the zipper down just an inch, and tugged the fabric of her jeans and the delicate fabric beneath them slightly away from her skin. And there it was. Against the pale skin of her hip, the bright, electric lime green appeared. And catching the light from the living room lamp was the unmistakable metallic shine of the tiny silver chili pepper. My world, which had already been cracking, shattered into a million irreparable pieces. The entire narrative of betrayal I had so carefully constructed, the evidence, the motive, the treachery, it all disintegrated into dust in a single, horrifying instant. See? She said, her voice shaking but clear, pulling her jeans back into place. I'm wearing it. I put it on before I left for Beatrice's, because I know that when you go out with your friends, you usually have a few beers, and you come home wanting a night. And I decided tonight was going to be that special night I told you about. She took a deep breath and stepped back, her eyes still blazing, but now with the fire of the deeply wronged. Now, whose underwear did you find on your best friend's couch? I have no idea, Jonathan. And frankly, if you really want to know, you should ask him. Not me. The color drained from my own face. A cold wave, colder than anything I had felt before, washed through me. The weight of what I had done, the sheer, catastrophic magnitude of my mistake, crashed down on me with the force of a tidal wave. I had not been a righteous judge. I had been a fool, a paranoid, jealous fool who had just accused the woman he loved of the worst possible betrayal based on nothing but a bizarre coincidence. I stood there, the cheap imitation from Julian's couch still limp in my hand, a pathetic symbol of my own monumental failure. I stared at her, my mind a screaming void. The anger that had fueled me for hours vanished, leaving behind a hollow, cavernous shame. I looked from the vibrant green at her hip back to the identical piece of fabric in my hand, and then to the utter devastation in her eyes. I had done this. My suspicion, my jealousy, my refusal to trust had brought us to this terrible place. Eleanor, I started, my voice a broken croak. I'm sorry. The words were pathetic, hopelessly inadequate. How do you apologize for an accusation of that magnitude? How do you say sorry for shattering the very foundation of your marriage? I took a stumbling step toward her, my hand outstretched. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I don't know what I was thinking. She flinched back from my touch, as if my hand were on fire. The rejection was a physical blow. Her eyes, which had been blazing with anger, were now filled with a deep, shimmering hurt that was far worse. Anger can be fought. This profound disappointment felt like a mortal wound. No, she said, shaking her head, her voice quiet but firm. Don't. She walked past me, grabbing her purse from where she had dropped it on the floor. Her movements were stiff, robotic. I'm going back to Beatrice's, she said, not looking at me. I'll sleep there tonight. Wait, Eleanor, please, I begged, following her to the door. Don't go. We can talk about this. It's not like that. Not like what, Jonathan? She said, finally turning to face me at the door. It's exactly like that. You didn't trust me. You thought the worst of me, and of Julian. You didn't come to me, you didn't ask. You put me on trial in your head, and found me guilty. I can't just forget that in 5 minutes. She opened the door. The cool night air rushed in, a stark contrast to the suffocating atmosphere inside. I tried to make tonight special for you, she said, her voice trembling with the weight of her sadness, and you tore our bedroom apart looking for proof that I was a cheater. She stepped out and pulled the door closed behind her. The click of the latch was the loudest sound I had ever heard. It echoed the sound of our fortress door slamming shut, with me on the inside and her on the outside. I stood alone in the hallway for a long time before trudging back upstairs. The bedroom was a disaster zone, a physical manifestation of the carnage I had wrought. Her clothes were strewn everywhere, a testament to my violent suspicion. I sank onto the edge of the bed, the piece of underwear from Julian's couch still clutched in my hand. An hour later, my phone rang. It was her. My heart leaped with a desperate hope. Can you come outside for a bit? She asked, her voice low and tired. I drove to Beatrice's and found her waiting on the sidewalk, wrapped in a coat, leaning against a street lamp. We stood there in the cold, the silence stretching between us. I apologized again, more coherently this time. I told her I was ashamed, that my insecurity had gotten the better of me, that I had let a seed of doubt grow into a monstrous, poisonous weed. She listened without interruption. When I was finished, she took a deep breath, her exhale misting in the cold air. I forgive you, Jonathan, she said softly, and the relief that flooded me was so intense it made my knees weak. But then she continued, but I'm still sleeping here tonight, and maybe tomorrow night too. I need some space. I just nodded, my throat too tight to speak. I had to accept her decision. It was the price of my failure. I drove home alone, the car feeling cavernously empty. I had my wife's forgiveness, but I knew, with a dreadful certainty, that something essential had been broken between us. Trust, once shattered, can be glued back together, but the cracks will always show. I had doubted the one person I thought I knew completely, and in doing so, I had revealed a darkness in myself I never knew existed. Our house was still standing, but I had put a deep and lasting fracture in its foundation, and I had no idea if we would ever be able to repair it.